and trial attorney Joseph Lowe. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Joseph, I'm going to start with you because I've been talking to Jennifer for a little bit. And as I said to Jennifer, I always check the temperature of our guests regarding this case. So I want to get your feelings about the prosecution's case thus far and whether they even have a case specifically for first-degree murder.
Well, they definitely have a case. If you just look at the national statistics on people who can get convicted of murder, despite there not being a body, the conviction rate for those cases is actually 86%. And although this type of murder prosecution is still rare, it has happened a considerable number of times over the years. And you usually will see about one or two every couple of years. So they're in pretty good shape just with that. In addition, the fact that you have the love interest, it comes up again right at the convenient time when she disappears and they're back together now. The fact that she killed herself, that's interesting. Then on top of that, you just heard the latest testimony with now, if you believe it, makes you feel that this man has a propensity towards violence and is abusive and is a drinker. What is happening is he's starting to fit the stereotype that a number of jurors will have as to what the person would be like if they were actually a murderer. Since you don't have it as a crime of passion, kind of, then marching him down this way and showing that he's not the perfect dad that maybe some of the other people claimed he was, is now really making him start to look differently, preys upon our fears. So yes, the prosecution has a case.
You know, Joseph has a very interesting point, Jennifer, this idea that you can convict folks in these cases. It's not that, actually, it's more common than not, 86%, if that's true. I'm not sure about that stat, but I'm sure you looked it up. I trust you, Joe. But in this case, I would imagine it's a little different, Jennifer, because we don't have any direct evidence. There's not even, normally I would imagine if you looked at that 86%, those cases, you would have some blood evidence or maybe some video or something that would put the person at the scene or perhaps show them getting rid of a body or something. Without that here, I have a hard time believing that this fits in that 86%.
I agree with you, Michael. And like we've been talking about it, you have some things here that are troubling about his personality, but you don't have sort of the direct evidence that he ever threatened her, that never came out, that said he was going to kill her or told somebody else he was going to kill her. He was not, she had claimed, yeah, he may have, been a little bit of abusive to her, but there was not really strong evidence about him abusing Victoria. It was more about his wife from, 20, 30 years ago, that, she's the one who said that he abused her. And so you don't really have a lot to put two and two together and say, oh, definitely he did it. The other thing you have here is you have Vicky, who had said in the past that she was depressed. She had contemplated suicide. That all came out. So that's another angle for the defense to say, oh, well, she was just a troubled woman and made herself disappear. So it's something else to throw a monkey wrench into this prosecution. So I think they do have a case. I just don't think it's a slam dunk case for first-degree murder here.
Yeah, and you said we don't have those statements from him. We don't have a lot of that type of evidence. But what we do have, or at least what the prosecution has, and putting a lot of their hope on, is a confidential informant. There's one testifying right now. And what I understand is that this particular confidential informant is the one that we were aware of. So we have actually some of his statements that were in motions. So I want to read some of those, and then I want to get your opinions on whether this testimony lives up to the billing. It says, I asked JP, how did she die then? JP told me that it was a million ways to die. He said that she might have taken too much of her medicine or probably went out and hung herself. I then said, so you really don't even know if she's really dead? JP then looked me in my eyes and said, I know for sure she is dead. I asked JP how, and he said, 'cause she killed herself. JP then said, what if she killed herself and I just got rid of the body? I said, why would you just get rid of her body? And he said, because no one was going to believe she killed herself and people was going to believe that he killed her. All right, let me start with you, Joseph. First of all, I want to get your opinion on confidential informants. oftentimes they can be found to be unreliable. Obviously, they're getting something usually in return. Defense will clearly bring that out. But I want to get your opinion about prosecutors using confidential informants in these types of cases.
Well, from my experience and personally, if I got a case and I'm looking at it, I said, wow, this one's not so good. And then I learn there's a confidential informant. I'm like, wow, we're going to win this case because they're terrible. And here's why. If you know how to address the confidential witness and use it against the government, then you can really punish the government for doing it. And it really comes around the idea of secrecy. And that is that you have all these other people who are required by the system to have to step forward for the Constitution. And what I mean by that is you have to step forward and be able to withstand the scrutiny of cross-examination. And in that crucible, in legal terms, it's a famous word for it, you will find out what the truth is. But oh, wait a minute. Now the government says, well, let's just kind of bend the Constitution a little bit and use it on this thing called a confidential informant so you don't get to see everything. And when that happens, man, I'm driving a truck through that door because it's huge. So although that written word sounded bad that you just read, I'm smiling and I'm going to punish that witness and go through all the reasons why and all the other things that could have been said, and it's out of context. So I don't like those at all. In fact, I love them.
Interesting. As a defense attorney, you love them and you can absolutely use them to your advantage. We'll find out if that happened in the courtroom when it's all over. But Jennifer, the words that I read